200 million vaccine shots, hot markets, big spending, and taxing the rich. It is all part of President Biden's first 100 days in office. And the major stock market indexes have soared, as you can see, during that time, with the S&P and Dow each up better than 10%. The NASDAQ up about 7%. It's actually the best showing for the Dow since FDR in the 1930s. Here to talk about it is David Lefkowitz. He is UBS Global Wealth Management Head of Equities for the Americas. David, good to see you. So I'm going to start with this. You know, Biden doesn't talk about it nearly as much as his predecessor, Donald Trump, did. But should Biden get the credit for the gains, the big gains we've seen in the stock market over the past 3 months?
I think I'm having some problems with my connection.
Oh, no, we hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So, in terms of, I think the largest driver of the market gains, that we've seen over the last year and on a year-to-date basis has really been the recovery from the pandemic. And, that was probably going to happen regardless of who is president. Now, that being said, the President Biden has put in place some additional spending and stimulus programs that has definitely boosted the outlook a bit. So that's probably helped a little bit, but I still think the biggest driver here has been the fact that the pandemic is beginning to wind down.
And David, I wanted to talk about some of the findings from your survey. So 50% of investors think Biden will have a positive impact on global markets. Do you seeing that maybe polarization is kind of dwindling a little bit now that we have a president who's doing his job, we're in the economic recovery, and everybody's just hoping that he does the best job for all of us?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen a little bit of a reduction in the polarization, but I mean, I do think it's pretty entrenched in American society. So I think it's going to take a little bit more than just what we've seen over the last 100 days or so to really kind of stitch the country back together. But it is a little bit encouraging that we are seeing some of the net approval ratings for President Biden have been some of the highest we've seen, really since sort of pre-Obama type of times.
Yeah, you mentioned that the Gallup data coming out, Biden's approval rating sitting at 57% after his 100 days. That is certainly pretty good. I know over at UBS, you did your investor sentiment survey, and I'm curious what some of the big takeaways are there in terms of how investors feel, which could be very different than how the rest of the general population feels, how investors feel about Biden and his policies and their impact on the stock market.
Yeah. So what we're hearing from our investors, and what we do is we're the largest wealth management company in the world. So we think it's really important that we understand what our clients are thinking, what our investors more broadly thinking about the markets and the economy. And we are registering a bit more optimism, both about the economy as well as the financial markets. Now, to be fair, it's hard to sometimes disentangle how much is related to who's sitting in the White House versus what's going on with the pandemic and things like that. But we also are seeing that more of our clients and the investors that we survey do think that President Biden will be a tailwind for global markets.